Good morning, afternoon or evening, wherever you are. I'm Paul Clark and welcome to my studio. So, what have I got for you lovely lot today? Well, it's another one in my series of quick spontaneous watercolours. And we're going to be having a go at painting this lovely little winter scene. Now, I think this is the first time I've done a video where it's all filmed in real time. There's no speeded up sections at all, other than perhaps a little bit of drying time. So, come and join me and we'll paint this step by step together. So just to show you that I like to practice first, here are several efforts with varying degrees of success. Now I'm looking for a fairly stylised approach today. It's not going to be too realistic. Today's materials, my paper is some Arches, it's cold pressed, 300 pound, 100% cotton, nice and thick so it won't need stretching, but of course any decent watercolour paper will do. And my colours today, I'm using some phthalo blue, but you could use some cerulean blue, some cobalt blue, dark Sedine purple or any bright purple, cadmium orange and some Payne's grey. And just 3 brushes from my range, a number 12 and number 6 round, and my trusty number 3 rigger. A really simple sketch today, so there's no drawing template. I'm making this up as I go along, so a couple of sort of mounted shapes. I'll put a fir tree here, just nice and loose. Perhaps we've got a river coming down here. Just the basic shape, and then a slope here, perhaps some smaller trees here in the distance, and let's bung a few rocks here in the foreground. Definitely don't want to overdo this. Too much drawing will restrict what you do with your brush. Off we go, straight in with my number 12 brush and a really wet wash here of the phthalo blue. And dropping here into the wet a little touch of dark Sedine purple, and we'll just call it purple from now on. A little stronger mix here of the purple, just to perhaps suggest the shadow side to these mountains. All the colours I'm using today are very exaggerated. I'm just trying to create a nice, fun, impressionistic feel to the painting today. Big blob of clean water here. I'm hoping to get a nice, big, dramatic background. Next, still using my number 12 brush, I'm dropping in a little cadmium orange, but I've added in a touch of cobalt blue to slightly dirty it up. And again, all of this is going in wet, letting all those lovely colours mix and blend on the paper. And simply by adding more cobalt blue into your mix will just give the colour a more brownish feel. I'm looking for a lighter area at the bottom of these mountains, so I'm just dropping in some more clean water. So down in the foreground here I'm looking for some shadows in the snow, so I'm using all the same colours, phthalo blue, a little touch of purple. Always trying to paint things with one stroke if I can, trying to avoid any fiddling and muddying my colours. Let's just splat in a little bit of the blue here. Just noticed a bit of a loose hair on the run up there. Well, I'll get rid of that later. So I'm going to be painting in the stream here using a little bit of cobalt blue and whatever I've got left on my palette, and using the texture of the paper to get those white gaps and that lovely dry brush effect. I think the idea here is that the stream doesn't finish, it just gets lost within the bank of snow. A little touch of Payne's grey here to suggest perhaps a water reflection. Okay, so now for this first tree, starting with a straight line, still using my number 12 brush, nice big blobby shapes, trying not to fiddle too much. And here I've just dropped in a little bit of Payne's grey into the mix. Next, while it's still wet, the sharpened wooden end of my brush just to pull out and drag out some details. Now I'm painting the rest of the outline of these trees in some purple, but you can use any colours you like, but I would stick to the colours we've used already. I'm not going to introduce any new colours. I think if I put in some green trees here, they would just look out of context with the rest of the painting. Keep a nice limited palette. So you can see that now that it's dried, the clean water that I dropped into the bottom of those mountains has created that gorgeous background, which sort of suggests maybe that mist is rising from the bottom of the valleys. Just love those effects. Now you can see from the state of my palette, it's difficult to give you exact colour matches all the time, just because I'm picking up stray colours all the time. A bit of browny colour going on here, some going into the dry, some going into the wet. Now, without fiddling too much, I'm just trying to give a little bit of shape to the top of these trees. And of course the wash below is still very damp. Now for these rocks, nice and simple, one stroke, Payne's grey, just dab them in. Same colour again, just a little bit of splatting. Now that tree at the end doesn't quite look right, so just a little more shaping. Okay, now for the big tree over here, same thing, centre line down first, nice and wet, and I'm using some phthalo blue. Just making the branches go in an upward direction. I always think it makes them look a little bit more natural. To help things to keep flowing a little bit, I'm giving a light spray of clean water. So I'm just going to have a little bit of fun with this, so I'm adding in a touch of cadmium orange. End of brush again, just to drag out a few details. And also scoring into the paper here will give you a darker version of that colour. A big blob of clean water here, hopefully to get a nice background or cauliflower. And here with clean water to soften some of these edges. Now there's perfect space here for a little deciduous tree, so I'm using some warm colours here with a mix of cadmium orange and cobalt blue, and then dropping some purple wet in wet into the shadow side. Now it's tempting to switch to my number 6 brush for these finer details, but I'm going to keep on with my number 12. Now just stopping that hard edge at the bottom there, so I'm just dropping in some clean water and adding here a little bit of cadmium orange. yes, it's time for my trusty number 3 rigger, just to get in some of these fine detail branches. Now I'm just going to bring this large fir tree down lower so it's in front of that other group of trees, otherwise it looks like the world's largest fir tree. And I'm just using the same colours again, mixes of purples and blues. Right, so now I'm going to let that totally dry, then I'm going to come back with some clean water and just re-wet the whole of the stream. Using my number 6 brush and straight into the wet, I'm painting in the reflections using all the same colours as above. Next, again, I'm going to let it totally dry, then I'm going to use this Posca white ink pen, just add in a few little highlights into the water. A few little dollops of snow. Then finally, let's go mad and put in a few of these white coloured branches. In danger of overworking, too much fiddling, let's call it a day. And this one all done in just under 15 minutes. Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did and you'll give it a go. Remember, make it your own. It's a real opportunity to splash around with the paint and have fun. And see if you can paint this at a nice speedy pace. I mean, I didn't even have time for my half-time drink today. But, as always, please don't forget to like, subscribe if you haven't already. It is free. Leave a comment. I do read every single one. I can't always reply to them all. And of course, I look forward to seeing you all again next week for another Watercolour Wednesday. Have a great week, everyone. Cheers now.